Water. It's a fundamental part of human life. Yet, many people, like the indigenous population in Bolivia, have been dealing with one of the worst environmental disasters: the drying of the second largest lake in the country, Lake Popo, and the contamination of toxic chemicals in their water. UMA, A Water Crisis in Bolivia, is a documentary highlighting that story. Let's check out this trailer.
El agua es vida. Donde no hay agua, no hay vida. Nosotros aquí vivimos de los pozos, sacamos de los pozos el agua, pero el agua ya no es bebible, ni siquiera los animales pueden beber. Todas las aguas en las minas que van bajando ríos abajo son las que alimentan el lago Popó. Todas esas situaciones las hemos ido demandando, denunciando en su momento, no hemos sido escuchados hasta que se ha secado el lago Popó. Después de 50, 40 años de contaminación necesitamos resarcimiento. Tienen que las empresas, los cooperativistas, reacondicionar la conducción de las aguas de mina, que no vayan directamente al río, todo amarillo, todo contaminado.
En esta comunidad nos encontramos sin trabajo. Nos ha abandonado nuestra madre tierra, nuestro Pachamama, nuestra Cota Maecota.
Es como si la minera fuera una ametralladora y nos aniquilara a todos los comunales.
Es un sector productivo que no solamente mejora su situación económica, sino también mejora la economía nacional. ¡Que vivan las mineras y pagueras de Bolivia! ¡Que vivan en Comín! ¡Que viva nuestro proceso de cambio! Muchas gracias.
Acá, hermano, el Illimane, en extensión, más de 10 empresas chinas dominan las explotaciones en Bolivia. Los químicos, explosiones están matando la montaña.
Nuevamente está queriendo ocurrir el saqueo de nuestros recursos naturales como en los tiempos coloniales. Ya han capturado aguas subterráneas, más va a ir secando. Ya es basta.
Ya hemos hecho nuestras denuncias, nuestras demandas a las Naciones Unidas. ¿A dónde más podemos ir?
Lo que importa es que la tierra se ha secado, el lago se ha muerto, se han muerto los peces. ¿Y quién defiende todo esto?
Joining us now to discuss her debut feature documentary is independent documentary filmmaker and journalist Ana Llácer. Welcome, Ana. Muchas gracias. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you so much.
Of course. Just to start off, we just saw the trailer for your film. Can you tell us a little bit more about it? UMA, A Water Crisis in Bolivia.
Yes, so UMA, Water Crisis in Bolivia follows the fight of 3 indigenous communities in the Andes to protect their water supplies from diversion and mining contamination amid a national water crisis. So I started to investigate at the end of 2015 when Lake Popo, the second largest lake in the country after Lake Titicaca, dried up.
Gracias, Ana. What exactly is causing the water crisis in Bolivia, and how long have the indigenous people living there faced this crisis?
So Bolivia was affected by one of the worst droughts in 25 years between 2016 and 2017, and the government declared a state of emergency in November 2016 that lasted over 100 days. So it affected all the major cities in the country and affected more than 25,000 families. So the documentary was filmed between those years in the Altiplano, in the highlands of the country, which is a region is very affected, highly affected by the effects of El Niño and La Niña. And there's like a chronic drought going on. So they have, because this area is already very dry, so they have like a chronic drought and it's affected by these climate phenomenon, El Niño y La Niña. So I started to investigate at the end of 2015 when Lake Popo dry up, and I found out that around this lake there's many mining operations, working and extracting mineral. And these mining operations use huge amounts of water for their operations and for their production. And they divert the water that is supposed to go to Lake Popo. So, and also they dispose all their mining waste into the rivers that flow into Lake Popo. So all these heavy metals leak into the indigenous communities' wells because they live from the wells. They take the water from the soil, and that affects their health. They cannot grow food anymore, and they are forced to migrate to bigger cities. Yeah.
And Ana, you found the main character, Maria Luisa. What drew you to her and her story in particular, and how did you find Maria Luisa for the story?
So I met Maria Luisa through the FEDIP, which is the Bolivia's Documentation and Information Center. They actually are interviewing the documentary, and they are researchers, and they are at the forefront in the fight against environmental abuses and violations of indigenous human rights. Her story is very inspiring because she's been fighting for many years to stop a mining company from contaminating the waters of the Wiña and Jauira River, which passes through Querarani, which is her community, and flows directly into Lake Popo. So Maria Luisa, when I met her, she already filed several claims against this mining company in the Oruro department, which is the region where Lake Popo is. It's called Oruro. It's like a state. And against this, she filed claims against this mining company. And after this, she was beaten and received death threats from the miners, and even some members of her community have neglected her as well. And Querarani has been separated. The miners are creating conflict to delegitimize, Maria Luisa, and so the community supports another leader closer to the mining company. So it's like a fight of interest here, because these are really poor communities. So the miners usually offer jobs to a lot of members in the community, so they get in fights, and it's like really sad.
Right. A lot of people have a hard time seeing how this is an issue, right? How the mining is an issue because it brings money and maybe
exactly
into the community, but at the same time, it's taking away the fundamental water, the human right of the water of the indigenous people. Thank you for sharing that, Ana. You have a record of addressing themes of social justice and environmental sustainability as a filmmaker. Can you please tell us the importance of this work, of being a documentary filmmaker in this field?
Right. To me, like every corner of the globe is facing the environmental impacts of human greed. So mineral, oil, and gas extraction contribute to forest loss, greenhouse gas emissions, and are exacerbating inequalities and further depriving people of their livelihood, especially indigenous communities. So the poor and marginalized suffer first, but we are all impacted. So that's what I think we need: bold climate solutions in order to shift public opinion and challenge decision makers, the systems and the practices. I believe that making environmental and human films is one of the best ways to do so, to bring attention, to create awareness.
Absolutely. And Ana, did you personally face any challenges while filming UMA? Please share, if any.
Yeah, it was very difficult to get indigenous communities to open up and talk in front of a camera. Even some NGOs and organizations that work with these contamination issues and with water didn't want to talk to me. One of the main issues is that they are afraid of retaliation. There has been a lot of censorship from the government of Evo Morales through his presidency. So when you speak up about environmental issues, you have many enemies, even within the communities, because the majority of the members of the community support Evo Morales party, which is like the first indigenous president. When this documentary was filmed, he's not now in power when the documentary was filmed, he was in power. So, for example, Maria Luisa has received the hatred of many people in her community, friends, relatives, including her brothers who have beaten her up, beaten in her own house. She has received death threats by minors who have threatened her and other community members with dynamite. So it's like a dangerous when you speak up about these kind of issues, because it's like an economic force and the people are really poor. So it's like a lot of disputes, it's complicated.
There's this activism behind the work that Maria Luisa is doing there.
Yeah.
Can you tell me how she feels about sharing her story with the world? Because now, this film is premiering in the Wildlife Conservation Film Festival. Congratulations to you and
Thank you so much.
And the indigenous community for spreading the message to the world. How is she and the indigenous community feeling after the film was completed?
So she's really happy because somebody like me has taken interest in her story, because she's been doing activism for almost 10 years. And these are really isolated communities in the Altiplano, in the highlands, in the Andes of Bolivia. So usually they don't receive much media attention. A lot of local papers or local media don't cover these things. So if they cover, they don't really, because they are really used to it. It's like something that they normalize, like mining contamination, water scarcity, water shortage is normal for them. So she's actually really happy. We had like an event in September around Climate Week with Weekend International, which is an organization that works here in the United States with indigenous communities, and Reacción Climática, which is another organization that works in Bolivia. And they invited us to talk, and she was really happy to, tell her story and, be heard, be finally heard by somebody. Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you, Ana, for your work and for highlighting Maria Luisa's story. One last thing before we go. In the United States, many of us are privileged to have water, and we often take it for granted. We're lucky to have clean water supplies. While Bolivia deals with the lack of water to drink, as Maria said in the film, not even animals can drink this water. What do you hope that people with plenty of access to clean, drinkable water take away from the film?
Well, here in the United States, there are many problems with water as well. Look what happened in Flint, Michigan. And last month in September, the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, made a rollback of the clean water rules, official repealing the 2015 protections of the Obama era regulation, that had enhanced protections for wetlands and smarter waterways. So the Trump administration is changing the definition of what qualifies as water of the United States in an effort to fast track oil and gas pipelines. So here in the United States, there's a lot of problems too. I mean, what I really want people to get is like, that our consumerism is highly affecting the livelihoods of a lot of people, and mostly indigenous people, and their right to food sovereignty and self-determination. So it's not only happening in Bolivia, it's happening here. Look what is going on in California too. They have water shortages too. So I think this is a global issue and it has to be addressed. I think people are really used to open, drink tap water, or open the water fountain, and they don't really realize how lucky we are. But the thing is that the population globally, we are growing, and the water is getting, the water shortages, and there's more demand than water that we have. So I think we have to be really thoughtful and be aware of how important water is for every human being and every being in the planet.
Absolutely. Gracias. Thank you, Ana, for your time today and for sharing more about your film, UMA, A Water Crisis in Bolivia.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Folks, you can watch UMA, A Water Crisis in Bolivia through the Wildlife Conservation Film Festival between October 1st to November 8th. Please visit wcff.org and umadocumentary.com for more information. We'll be right back.